Meeting to order of agencies and affairs. First up on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Looking for motion.
Support.
Motion and support. Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up is public comment. Public, you have 5 minutes to address the board. Just step up and give your name, please. No takers. Moving on. Committee items. The minutes from the December 8, 2014 meeting. Motion and support. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up is the Sheriff's biannual report. And I will confess that I looked at the board docs on Friday, didn't see it, so I emailed the sheriff. He 5 minutes later sent me the PowerPoint. I then forwarded it to Adam. So I thought email went, but the attachment didn't. And Aaron was able to get us through getting it on there this morning. So my apologies for not getting it to the committee sooner. And I tried again late last night, and I appreciate the sheriff getting it to me so quick. So Sheriff, the floor is yours.
All right, good morning. A lot of the numbers fairly consistent with last year. Average daily population's down a little bit. Don't know exactly what to attribute that to. Intake's down a bit from last year. We did increase our borders slightly this year to try to offset not only the population, but increase revenue. Some of the things that are happening in the jail, a lot of contraband making its way in and out, so we're doing a lot more shakedowns of cells. Still a lot of inmates in mental health crisis. Lifeways helps us with that. 87 inmates intervened with mental health crisis. Here again, a lot of what we get, a lot of people that we get are in bad need of medical help, whether it's drug dependency or just lack of medical attention outside the facility. So as you can see, there's a lot of what we do here that is directly related to the medical issues we have in the jail. You'll notice on the bottom bullet point, DHS helped us out with enrolling some of our inmates with Medicaid. And we've got 9 enrolled so far. There's a variety of ways you could do that. The way we tried to do it that seems to have worked well so far is that anyone that appears to be high risk or maybe in need of medical attention, those people are enrolled, and then it's worked out fairly well. They'll go back as far as, I think it is 3 months prior to cover Medicaid expenses. We've got a couple bills outstanding that for a variety of reasons, it does require the cooperation of the family and the inmate to get this done appropriately or properly, and we don't always get that cooperation. So, but we do have, we are utilizing that service. That should cut our medical expenses slightly. Pilot program between Jackson Community College Jackson College and MDOC is being begun, or at least we're exploring it. We're attempting to get inmates from MDOC who are already enrolling in college with the MDOC program, get them here so that revenue will go to Jackson College. They'll take courses from Channer Road facility prior to exiting the facility, so it'll hopefully give them some job skills and some education prior to leaving and help out the college as well. We've got as you can see, 11 high school completion and 16 GED students from JPS, 2 successful graduates that graduated with diplomas from Jackson Public Schools in 2014. Everyone in the jail has been issued, I know there's a lot of talk about it these days for a variety of reasons, but everyone in the jail has been issued a body camera to help shield us from liability and document incidents better. These, for about less than $4,000, we were able to purchase the small body mics. Again, everyone's been issued these so far. Anytime there's an incident in the jail, we would capture that recording and attach it to the report so that it'll be available for us in the future should there be any litigation or any question about use of force and that type of thing. thank Rick Shealy and his crew. They replaced the perimeter lighting in the jail at Channer Road with LED lighting. That should save some utility costs and also increase the lighting out there. New dishwasher purchase this year. Patrol Division's pretty consistent with last year's numbers, about 29, almost 30,000 incidents. Concealed pistol applications investigated, almost 2,000. Many of you know that that's going to change. We'll probably not be doing those other than whatever cooperation we need to engage in with the state police, because the concealed pistol licenses are all being turned over to, the board is being dissolved, and the state police and the clerk will work on a shall issue, the shall issue law, and I don't know all the particulars of that, but if they wish any assistance as far as investigation into applications, we're more than happy to help. List of some of the activities on the road patrol. Felony arrest, OWI is a little bit down this year. A lot of animal control related calls that we've either assisted with or engaged in. We do seem to be managing that fairly well. I know we've assisted state police who sometimes don't have cages in the back of their cars, and obviously if you've got a vicious dog, you don't want them running amok in the cars, so we've assisted them a few times with that. Some of the major crash investigations, you may recall the double fatality down on US 127, a couple of DHS employees. That's probably going to go to prosecution. Also a single occupant on Brooklyn Road just south of South Street for the crash team. We have a homicide outstanding. I can't go into great detail about what's going on with that, but I will tell you that within the next couple of weeks, I think we'll bring this to some sort of resolution. So we'll have that, I think, resolved. Also, our detectives very busy in the southwest part of the county. There was a lot of break-ins to barns and vehicles and that type of thing, and we've resolved a string of those, recovered some of the property in those incidents. Had a homicide on Comden Road out in Parma Township. That was a little bit more straightforward. We had the victim, witness, and suspect all in one place, which assists us greatly in bringing that to a quick resolution. Another domestic stabbing in Parma Township. That was resolved rather quickly. And then probably what the detectives are most proud of on Pioneer Drive in Summit Township back in the summer, there was a home invasion where 4 suspects were involved in a home invasion, broke into the residence thinking the resident there had a great deal of cash on hand, which wasn't true, and they beat him up pretty good and then went to Lansing and used negotiable instruments to buy various items in the Lansing area. Well, fortunately we worked very hard, the detectives did, and brought those people in, and one even fled to Alabama, and he was brought back on extradition. School liaison program going very well. We've gotten a few more schools on board this past year, Northwest being one of them. We serve 1 day a week out there. Very active, and I want to congratulate Todd Whiting on his work. He's worked very diligently to conduct all the lockdown drills that are necessary and train the schools in lockdowns and get them all on board so that they're eligible for all the grant funding that's come available this year as it pertains to schools. Contract with Jackson College was initiated. This is also going very well. We have a body camera on our deputy out there so that, again, we can, because he's most of the time on foot, document what his activities are and his interactions with the public, and again, shield us from any liability. There was 10 SRT call-outs this year. That's, as you know, a joint team with the City of Jackson. We're also working with Blackman Township to hope to expand that team, or if not expand it, at least make it a larger cooperative countywide. They have their own team in Blackman Township, and again, we're still working with them to sort of foster a relationship there, hopefully save us all a little bit of money. Countywide GPS and patrol cars, that's for the most part up and running. We're testing final phases of testing of that, trying to get it to work down at the dispatch center so we can hopefully in the near future move away from the polling of units to dispatch and go to a more streamlined process. E-ticketing seems to be working fairly well. Automatically imports real accurate data into 12th District Court, which should again make the data quite a bit more valid and accurate. We have on Wesley Street, we have a prescription drug drop-off. We're also working with Grass Lake to, and I think we're just about done with that, Rod, is that accurate? In Grass Lake, so that we will have a prescription drug drop-off there as well. And you'd be shocked at how many prescription drugs come in literally by the pound. This is an effort to do a couple of things. One, make sure that these drugs don't get in the hands of kids or somebody that should not have them in their possession, getting into grandma and grandpa's medicine cabinet or mom and dad's medicine cabinet, and also to prevent the water supply from being tainted, as some people historically have flushed these down toilets and so forth, and it winds up in our water supply. Deputies assigned to the Marine Patrol Division, as you'll recall, probably from last year, we have all of our school officers work on the lakes in the summers, so it works very well. It allows us to move those people around without much effort, and this is some of the activity that they engaged in this summer: 434 hours of boat patrol, 14 citations issued, 319 verbal warnings. A lot of the things we're finding on the waters, unless the behavior is very flagrant, we oftentimes give verbal warnings. A lot of the people on the lakes don't know the rules as it pertains to flotation devices and a lot of that, so we're trying to work with people and make sure they have a good time, but also address the violations when needed. JNet activity, you'll see a lot of, I don't know why this is, but 168 pounds of marijuana seized this year. It's all but legal. I don't know why people don't do what they need to get their license if they so choose, but a lot of activity out there, a lot of guns seized, a lot of arrests. They've had some very big investigations, as you recall. One of the most disturbing issues is the amount of heroin we're still seeing. It's extremely cheap, it's readily available, and that's one of our greatest concerns because it's also probably the most deadly. We had a few major cases here out in, if you recall, the dentist in town that was distributing pills to people and wasn't even supposed to be prescribing anything. He didn't have that had been revoked from his license. So that was an investigation that was conducted by JNet, and specifically our deputy Lewis. Conducted a search warrant at a residence, found heroin, paraphernalia, significant amount of cash. Also, a Grass Lake investigation is still ongoing, where a mother and son were engaged in distributing heroin. Some of our volunteers, give them a little credit here. Mounted Division put in 950 hours of service. Reserves, 887. Other volunteers, like Dick Riska, who works in our front office, volunteers weekly, a couple times a week, filing and logging gun permits and that type of thing. They give an additional 260 hours of service to the Sheriff's Office, so many thanks to them. Homeland Security Grant, 2013 grant, which I believe is for the Knox boxes in all the schools so that law enforcement will have access, law enforcement countywide, not just the Sheriff's Office, will have access to the schools in the event that they need to get into the building for some reason. It's, if you're not familiar with it, firefighters have been doing this for years. They'll respond to a building and there'll be a little brown box on the outside. Within it is contained the keys and access to the building. So the schools thought it was a valid project, and we're going to have those installed hopefully within the next several months. The usual $1,000 we receive annually for doing hazardous materials planning at the 302 sites around Jackson County. Also purchased a Throwbot that looks like a toilet paper spool on wheels there, but it's a throwbot. You're able to throw this through the window of a residence and be able to see what's on the inside. It's primarily for SRT. It's available to anybody in Jackson County if it's needed, but it's also a way for us to hopefully limit the exposure to personnel, make it a safer operation if there's an SRT or critical situation. Weather sirens were upgraded county-wide. We found that there was several sirens that were not, even though they were capable of two-way communication, they were not operable in that fashion because the system we had in dispatch was not robust enough to handle the number of sirens in the county, so those were improved, and all the two-way sirens are now actual two-way sirens. We're not spending the money on a two-way siren, which is basically a dumb siren. It can only receive communication. Also, firefighters had I can't even remember what that said. There's a firefighter training that they went to that was funded by Homeland Security dollars earmarked for Jackson County. That was in Lansing, I believe. Blackman Township personnel, and I think City Fire went to that training. We had at least three that I'm aware of activations this year. We had a drill that looked at the potential flooding in primarily north, but possibly down south from all the snow last year. So we had a public officials conference at the health department and engaged in some just discussions about what potentially could happen and how we would react to that. Damage assessment training was held in Jackson County EOC, and updated hazardous response plans went to a variety of 302 sites to further investigate those and assist where we could. Vulnerability assessments were done at long-term care facilities. Work group was created to discuss preparedness and hazard mitigation at those facilities. And again, emergency management dovetails with our school liaison, and a lot of the on-site vulnerability assessments for the schools were done in coordination with our Sergeant Brining at emergency management. He attends, Sergeant Brining attends the lockdown drills, tornado drills, gives guidance where needed. We have access now through emergency management to the digital billboard on I-94, if you'll recall, that billboard that's almost in front of Lowe's there, that if there was something like what happened in Kalamazoo, we do have access now if we needed to post something up from emergency management to advise motorists to either to exit or do whatever they needed to prepare for closures. Some of the calls for service, this is just a comparison countywide of calls for service. If you have any questions about those numbers, feel free to ask. This is just for police agencies countywide. Fire calls for service, again, just a countywide snapshot of what a lot of the local fire departments are doing. And not necessarily everything is here, because these are just the calls for service from dispatch to these agencies. They obviously probably doing a lot more on their own. Total dispatch calls for service just kind of shows the trend across the calendar year. Dispatch center is completed. If you haven't made it down there, we'd be glad to show it to you. It looks great. It's performing well. I think generally speaking, everybody's very happy with the move. It looks really nice. It gives us an opportunity to look outside once in a while and not be underneath the parking lot listening to the snow plows go back and forth. So it's very good. A lot of the equipment we're still tweaking some of that. We're working with IT to coordinate some of the things that are not quite right yet, and also our vendor, which is New World, who there's a few hiccups. As usual, when they upgrade, something doesn't always go quite as planned. So there's a few things we're working through, but overall it's working very well. The center is humming right along. We're working to collaborate with Consumers Energy to erect a tower. Well, they already have the tower erected, to put our equipment on a tower in Tompkins, which should put us at a much higher elevation than we are in Springport. And also it'll help fill a lot of the voids up in the Tompkins area, if you ever hear about, because Tompkins has got that low area there that doesn't get filled a lot with radio communications. That's one of the weak spots in the county. We'd like to make that move either from Springport to there, or potentially add a tower at the site on the Parma Road garage for the county roads. Both things probably long-term need to be done, but those are two of the things that we're working on right now to try to one, get the money to do it, and two, coordinate with consumers to get on their facility that's already in place. ESINet, you'll be hearing about this this February at the next board meeting. It's a coordinated effort, 9-county coordinated effort to attempt to link all the 911 centers in this region, for lack of a better term, to basically bring them together with a fiber optic network, and it's in preparation for a lot of the next generation 911 things that are on the horizon. It's simply an MOU that needs to be signed, and I believe it needs board approval, so we'll be bringing that to you next month. Vehicle repeaters are in 4 vehicles countywide, 2 fire, 2 police vehicles, and so far what we're seeing is very positive. This enables us to have in-building coverage, specifically in schools. I know it's worked well. Our Deputy Deering out in the Parma area has had very positive reviews, and I don't know if similar. It seems to work very well. We don't have in-building coverage. If you're inside of a school building, large structure, sometimes even a house, you won't get radio coverage. The system is operating as spec'd, but it's not good enough, and we're looking to improve that, and that's one of the ways that we think we can do it. Backup radio system for redundancy was added, and again, our dispatchers are exceeding the state recommended training for dispatch operators. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you, and he might be embarrassed if I shared this, but there's been a lot of talk about police officers going out and giving gift cards to people in the spirit of Christmas. Well, Tony McNeil's last day was on, I believe, the 22nd of December, and he too went out and bought several $100s in gift cards. Wanted to give a little something back to the community that provided him with a career for 25 years. And so he did the same thing, and he didn't get any recognition for that. I don't even think he knows I know about it, but I do know about it, and it's much appreciated. It's a really classy way to leave this job. So thank you to Tony McNeil. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Sheriff. Julie?
All right.
Thank you. You mentioned the contraband that you have captured and collected. What do you do with the contraband?
If it's something that needs to be destroyed formally, we'll call it, like a drug or something of that nature, we will take it to the Jackson City Police Department and have it destroyed. If it's something a lot of Frost contraband too can include tobacco, which we would just throw out or flush, unless we were using it for some prosecution, but rarely. I don't want to bog down the court system with a lot of that. If it's something like some instrument they've sharpened, we would probably retain that for evidence or dispose of it depending on what state it was in and whether there was any intent that could be demonstrated with it.
What about items that are collected from individuals going into your facilities?
Those go into their property unless they're illegal. If they're illegal, they'll be turned over to as evidence, but normally the arresting officer would take them. Sometimes what we've done in the past is if you were to arrest someone, bring them in, and they had something that was illegal to possess, we would give it back to you as the arresting officer. That would be part of your case, so that it just makes things a lot less complicated.
Sarah?
You were talking about the tower out in Tompkins. What do you guys have, like, a timeline on that and the possibility of the one out in Parma?
Well, there's a couple things kind of in play here. One is obviously we spent a lot of money on the dispatch upgrade, so we don't have a whole lot of money to put towards that right now. If money were no object, we could do both very quickly. The problem we have, in the way, ideally what would happen for the people in Springport specifically is we would put a tower in Parma and then move the one from Springport to Tompkins, because if we take the one from Springport and put it to Tompkins without having the tower in Parma, it's going to virtually eliminate communications in Springport for probably a week. And I don't think that's going to be good for anyone. So ideally, we would have the money to buy and purchase a tower, erect it, but this all takes time too. We're already working with the FCC and obviously FAA to get permission to put a tower up, and we've tried to work with some of the people out west. There's some people that don't want us on their towers, and ideally, we'd have one that was elevated quite a bit, and the one that Consumers Energy owns in Tompkins is quite robust and quite a tall tower, which is... No, it is further, what's the name of those?
It's on Wilcox Road.
Wilcox Road, yeah.
It's a 400-footer, I believe.
Yeah, so. So, yeah.
Sheriff, go ahead, Phil.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good.
Should we have had the huge pile up like Kalamazoo County did?
Let's not do that.
Yes, I know that. Do we have an adequate plan to handle something that big in Jackson County, or can you never prepare for something that large?
Well, one of the things we do, I think we could handle, I don't want that to happen. I'm
Right.
probably jinxing myself, but I think we have a plan in place. Obviously, you bring everyone in. One of the reasons that most people within Jackson County are deputized is just for that reason, so that if the chief were willing, he could send his personnel up. We could get everyone countywide. I could bring people in. You know, the biggest issue we're going to have is probably a lack of patrol vehicles. But again, we can bring everybody, all forces to bear. We can bring in city police and obviously MSP. We have a working relationship with them. They would bring all the people we needed. So we had something not nearly as bad, but pretty severe last year, that Blackman was the primary agency on it, and I thought it went as well as it could go. Obviously, it's a congested area just like Kalamazoo and Battle Creek is, so we're really prone to having those, and you probably just made that happen.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, every dark cloud has a silver lining. I come up M50 today out by Willoughby's, and we did 25 mile an hour. Everybody all of a sudden remembered how to drive.
Well, it takes them a few times, but
Yes.
eventually, by the end of the winter, we usually get it down.
Thank you.
Sheriff, just a couple of questions for me. The repeaters, I appreciate the effort on those. We agreed to take one at Columbia to try it out. It does seem to be working really good. Is it feasible to put those in all the cars in the county or not?
I think that should be our goal. I think that'll fix a lot of problems. You know as well as I do that there's further narrow banding in conversation right now, and that it really hurt us the last time we did that, and to do it again would be catastrophic, and we can't do it until we do something with the system. So, and we're aware of that. I've applied for grants. I know Jason Hammond's applied for grants. We're working to try to come up with money to do that. It's really a money issue.
Yeah, the dispatch center, I'm very glad we did that. I think that's made a great difference in being able to hear and understand, but I think the weakness in the system is still the old tower system throughout the county, and I wonder if we should be looking long-term to do something with that. You know, the repeaters in the cars seem to take care of the lack of reception in the outlying areas, and I didn't know if that was feasible for all cars in the county to have those or not, and probably pretty expensive, but...
Yeah, they're not, but you know, it's actually probably the cheapest solution to the problem, to be bluntly honest. So again, we'll see if any of these grants come back, that'll be helpful. If we come up with the money somehow, that'll be obviously a great help, but you know, we're trying to be as judicious as we can with the funds we get, and obviously we have the same personnel, the same radio system as you do, so you know, we're going through the same stuff. So.
Yeah, I've always maintained that you end up down in our corner of the county and have the same problems that we have. So, Sheriff, on the jail cameras, there was a fairly lengthy article in the paper yesterday on those. Just a couple of questions. Do you have any plans to expand them more on the road for deputies? I think you said Jim Moore's got one at the college, but...
You know, I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, the biggest liability we have day to day, mostly because we work in a rural environment, is is the cars, the liability with the cars. I almost worry, I like how the cars work. It would be nice if there was something that worked in concert that wasn't so expensive, because as you know, those VView cameras they aren't giving those away. I don't believe in going to just a body camera and having that run in the cars, because you're not getting a very good perspective half the time you're looking at the steering wheel, depending on the height of the officer. So the short answer to that is probably if the federal government comes down and says, here's all the money you need for the cameras, then we'll buy them. But beyond that, we're going to wait. As you know, I think you have the same system, do you not, the L3? Yep. And it captures a lot of the audio, which tells a great deal of the story anyway. But I don't have any plans on expanding that. I just felt at the college that it was probably a wise choice to put those in use.
And then lastly, with the jail cameras, are those running all the time or just on contact with the inmates, or just when the jailers choose to turn them on?
When there's an incident is how we've decided to do that. And there's a couple of reasons. One, you have a retention schedule. If you do activate a camera, if it were to run all day, we don't have the space to retain. You've got 55 cameras in use, multiply that times 2,000 hours per employee, and it adds up pretty quickly. So for right now, unless something changes, we'll just have them activate their cameras. But again, you could have 2 or 3 officers on each incident, so you're going to capture 3 different, I'm assuming we're going to get pretty good video or audio minimally from these devices, and we'll see how it goes. But right now, it's a retention issue.
Okay, thanks for the detailed report. John?
Sheriff, thanks for the information you provided last week to Adam also. I have not toured the call center yet and would like to do so. I'll be sending you an email, and maybe we can set something up.
Anyone's welcome anytime. We'll make way for you. So
Sheriff, you've got a second thing up, the memo of understanding with MSP, or
I believe the
again?
undersheriff is going to handle that.
Morning. This is really just a formalization of an agreement we've had for some time. The difference is we're adding two-way communication now. The state police have always received dispatch information from the 911 center to their in-car computers, but with the GPS project, we need to make it a two-way street so we can receive information back from the patrol cars to abstract them onto the map, to include them within the GPS dispatching. There's no cost borne to the county. The memo of understanding explicitly says that any cost will fall upon the state police to implement whatever is on their side. We have everything we need on our side. There was no written agreement when the previous director let them receive information from CAD, so this is really just formalizing this agreement to allow the information exchange back and forth between patrol cars and the computer-aided dispatching center to allow them to be involved in the GPS project.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions? If not, we're looking to send it on to the full board.
Support.
Motion and support, questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Mr. Sheriff.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Region 2 Planning Commission biannual report. I see nobody from Region 2 here. It's a fairly lengthy, detailed, oh, Grant, sneaking in on the side there. Very good.
Good morning, everybody. Just to summarize the report that was contained within your agenda packets, the County Planning Commission has been very busy this year with, over the past 6 months, 15 zoning ordinance amendments were passed through County Planning Commission and recommendations made back to the appropriate township boards. The Solid Waste Planning Committee has continued its work, and we hope to have a plan finalized sometime in the first part of this year. As far as Jackson 2020 goes, staff, Region 2 has been participating on the steering committee for Jackson 2020. Myself, Rod Malloy from the Dahlem Center, and Scott Robbins here from County Parks have joined together as co-champions of the Arts, Recreation, and Culture strand, trying to move forward the strategic plan elements contained within the county's strategic plan as far as arts, recreation, and cultural opportunities. Part of that was getting involved in the U of M students that came from their School of Information to town in the fall of 2014, and staff mentored two of the citizen interaction design projects, Art Finders and Living History. And the Art Finders project resulted in a mobile website designed to introduce 6 public art installations, including the Cascades, to school-age children as well as their families and/or mentors. And that's something that should go online in the spring of 2015. We made the strategic decision that putting it out there just as the snow started to fall and probably wasn't the best time to do that. And staff has also been sitting on the county's strategic implementation team, and as part of that, made a presentation on the ARC strand to the county board during its November 7th study session in conjunction with Scott from County Parks. Moving on to economic development services, staff facilitated the development of the 2014 update of the Region 2 Area Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which was adopted by the Region 2 Planning Commission last Thursday and will be sent on to the Economic Development Administration this week so that we're in compliance with our duties as an economic development district for the 3-county area of Jackson, Hillsdale, and Lenawee counties. Staff has also been very busy with the Regional Prosperity Initiative, which you may remember is that the governor created a grant program to assist regional planning commissions in the creation of and implementation of a collaborative and coordinated strategy among a variety of partners, which include adult and higher education, economic development, transportation, and workforce development. Our Regional Prosperity Initiative region includes our 3-county area as well as Washtenaw, Livingston, and Monroe counties in suburban Metro Detroit. That has developed into a 5-year economic development plan, which will be completed this month and will be presented to you subsequently. Region 2 also completed and submitted to the Department of Technology Management and Budget a 2015 grant application to provide continued funding and to begin implementing the strategy findings and to explore the development of a regional advisory council, which is the second step in the governor's vision of developing these regional prosperity initiative plans. Under transportation services, staff assisted the Department of Transportation with selecting a consultant to complete a design for the 9-mile corridor of I-94 extending from M60 to Sargent Road. What they call a context-sensitive solution study will develop aesthetic and design elements to be incorporated during the reconstruction of the corridor and its interchanges. Staff completed the data collection regarding pavement conditions on all of the federal aid roads in Jackson County, and that was completed in October of this year. And through the Jackson Area Comprehensive Transportation Study, the notable projects that were completed in using federal funds that were funneled through the JAX program to Jackson County included the reconstruction of North Street and US 127 from Kennedy to Elm and Parnell to Henry, respectively, as well as the resurfacing of M106 between Portage River to Bunker Hill. And other projects are listed on page 3 of the staff report that show projects that are that were also included in 2014. You saw during the study session the work that was done on completing the City of Jackson and Jackson County Joint Recreation Plan, and that's something that Scott will provide more detail on later on this morning, so I am not going to go into that more other than to point out that once it's adopted and by the city and the county and on file with the state, it will maintain the eligibility of the county and the city to apply for Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grants and all other recreation grants that are funneled through the Department of Natural Resources for the 2015 through 2019 time period that the plan covers. Under the Jackson Traffic Safety Commission, which is funded on a surcharge of all paid traffic infractions and misdemeanor citations administered by the 12th District Court. In 2014, a total of $191,932 were awarded at the county level. That included grants to the Health Department for the provision of infant and car seats and installation education to low-income families, to the Sheriff's Department to provide equipment and software to initiate a countywide e-ticketing program, also through the Sheriff's Department and in cooperation with other county enforcement agencies, the Safe Communities Program, which aggressively enforces impaired driving and occupant restraint usage, and then through Family Service and Children's Aid to provide a first-time offender program. For the 2015 fiscal year program, which began October 1st, 2014, because we operate on a federal fiscal year, a total of $117,370 were funneled to local providers for similar programs as you see reported for 2014. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Grant. Commissioners, any questions? Julie?
Grant, whether you'd like to answer this question or help me with a clarification, or Administrator or Chair Shotwell, someone serving on, currently serving on BPW, I'd appreciate it. You mentioned the Solid Waste Management Planning Committee and things are being wrapped up in that proposal. My understanding is then it goes to municipalities, townships, and villages for approval, correct? What is the timeline, I guess, we're looking at there then?
Once the Solid Waste Planning Committee comes up with a plan, it needs to go out for a public reporting period. I can't remember the exact time on that, but that's at least a month. Hearing would be held on that. Then it would come through the county approval process, so I guess it would which committee would that go to, Mike, before it would go to the county board for its approval? Okay, it would go to Board of Public Works and then come to the county board for its approval. Then it would go out to all the municipalities within the county, and we need to get 2/3 of them to approve, at least 2/3 of them to approve the document, and then it would go to the DEQ, for Department of Environmental Quality, for its approval, and then it would be an approved amendment at that point in time. So we are talking, I hope that the committee can get its stuff done, maybe in March or April, and so it would come to the county then probably, in late spring, early summer, and then we'll have to figure out, I'm not sure what the most diplomatic way will be of trying to set some type of a time period for municipalities to approve it. But, we don't want to be heavy-handed. We want to make it as easy for them to approve it as possible, and it might take some longer than others. I don't know, but hopefully we'll get it done this calendar year.
Other commissioners? Bill?
Grant, just as a long shot here, do you know of any grants that could be available to cover the landfill monitoring costs from DEQ? It's a lifetime, it's a forever thing.
No, I'm not aware of that. That's not something that I've ever really looked for either. So there might be something out there, but not that I'm aware of.
I know you're working on this for 2 different counties, and you're
Yeah,
across
just-
something, kind of watch, would you?
Yes, I'll keep my eyes open.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Grant, thank you for your time.
Thank
and
you.
report. Kent Mauer, Airport. Looks like you've got 3 separate items, all kind of related.
Correct. I have 3 items, all related to the runway safety project. And the first item is, it's called a sponsor contract, but in essence, it's a grant from MDOT Aeronautics to fund tree removal and some clearing and grubbing, all related to the runway construction project. This tree clearing will be, for the most part, on airport property between M60 and the west side of Maynard. There are 3 private parcels, commercial parcels, that we'll do tree clearing on, and those are the Commonwealth Associates and Eaton Aeroquip parcels where we have easements. We purchased easements along that fence line north of those buildings. The total grant is $350,000. It's a 2.5% local match. What's a little unusual about this is that this will go for approval to the Aeronautics Commission on the 21st. So we're actually pre-approving this, or that's what I'm requesting, is because of the tight time frames. You wouldn't think after 13 years in this business we'd have something that was critical time-wise, but the tree clearing has to be done before the end of March because the Indiana bat is known to return to trees here in Jackson County after March 31st. And so what I'll do is, if approved, after the commission meeting, assuming approval by this body, we'll hand walk these documents and resolutions back and forth and try to get the notice to proceed the first week in February. So that's a little unusual in this, but the dollar figures are set, and the approvals by the Michigan Aeronautics Commission are, I can say, from many years of going to those, very routine. Staff presents it, and they will approve these in a large block. So that is my request here.
And I think on all 3 of these, we're looking to send them to the full board. So I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the draft resolution authorizing the signature to move on to the full board.
Motion and support. Ken, just one question from your point, really. It talks about Mead Construction, I think, out of Springport, and that's separate from Mead and Hunt, correct?
Correct.
I think it's even spelled different, but maybe not.
There's a typo in the last memo that's somewhat related to the redundancy in those things, but it is a construction company that will be doing the tree clearing and grubbing, and then the other is our engineering company that is Mead and Hunt.
And there's no relationship between those 2 that we're aware of, correct?
No.
Okay. Jen?
Kent, this might be out of your expertise, and I don't know how much
That's
you've
likely.
I don't know how much you've studied these bats, but can people expect more bats in their homes then this year?
That would be out of my area of expertise, but there aren't very many homes adjacent to the trees that we're cutting. That would be the only thing I would observe.
But they'll be looking for someplace.
Yeah, I don't know how many bats actually nest in these trees, but it would be any shagbark hickory tree or any tree that has loose bark. So we include all trees and have a very tight EPA or a environmental restriction to cut the trees prior to the 1st of April.
Okay, seeing no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Kent?
Next item is the construction contract, the tree clearing and grubbing. There will be some clearing, and in the wetland areas, no grubbing unless we have a permit. And this is Mead Brothers of Springport. It was a sealed bid. They were the low bidder, and it was under the estimate by the engineer. and the total contract is $281,783.20, again, paid for by the grant.
Okay, and again, looking to send it to the full board. Motion and support, questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. G.
This is, forget the subject on this one, there's a typo in there, but it is a construction administration contract with our primary engineering firm, Mead and Hunt, and this is where they're on site, making sure that the contract is administered properly and things are done accordingly to the specs. $37,605.
Okay, and again to the full board, we'd be looking for a motion. Motion and support, questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Okay, last committee action item is the City of Jackson and Jackson County Joint Recreation Plan, which we got to look at on Friday. Got it.
Good morning. Before you, my request today is, like Grant had done a presentation to the study session last week to explain the process that we have gone through in order to create a revised edition of the Joint Recreation Plan. Originally, back in 2010, it was created, which led itself to 2014, and now this one will extend from 2015 to 2019 and allow us to move forward with grant applications with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So my request as the Parks and Fair Director is, since the Parks and Recreation Commission had voted to approve it last week, we're looking to move it through Agency and Affairs and on to the full board for approval.
Okay, and looking for a motion. Motion and support. Additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Scott. Fine
Thank you
job.
very much.
Okay, takes us to other business, which is claims we'd be looking to pay. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Other minutes are attached. The February reporting schedule is there, and we're back to public comments. No takers. We will move on to committee member comments. No takers there. We're very efficient, I guess. We are adjourned.